Krishna, Dandava Pranam, so glorious to Srila Prabhupada. Welcome to the Bhaktivaibhava class. Today we're continuing with chapter 9 of Srimad Bhagavatam. You can please join with the Mangala Charana prayers. Om Agyana Timirandasya Jnananjana Salakaya Chakshur Ummilitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitan Yena Bhutale Swayan Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakam Sya He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namastute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavanishwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Pancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhuvya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Sarva Shastra Vipiyusha Sarva Vedaika Satpala Sarva Siddhanta Ratnavya Sarva Lokaika Drikpada Sarva Bhagavata Prana Srimad Bhagavata Prabhu Kalidvanto Dita Ditya Shri Krishna Parivartita Paramananda Pataya Prema Varshaksharayate Sarvada Sarva Sevyaya Shri Krishna Yanamastume Madeka Bhando Matsangin Madguro Mam Mahadana Manishtaraka Madbhagya Madananda Namastute Asadu Sadhu Tadayim Atini Chochatakara Hanamuncha Kadachimam Premna Ritkanta Jospuram Hare Krishna. So welcome to our class. I like to begin with a little recap like we always do. Maybe you can, let's share some of the points from yesterday's discussion. You can unmute yourself. You can comment on the chat box. Mahavira Prabhu.
Krishna Bhoji, Dandik Pranam. You mentioned that in the first verse, we have been actually advised that we are suffering from two misconceptions in this material world, that I am the enjoyer, and second misconception is that this world is meant for my enjoyment. So we have to get free from this kind of two misconceptions. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you. Thank you. Ras Shekhar Prabhu.
We have learned about Atma Mayam, that we are fickle and we have got nothing to do with the material.
There is a lot of background noise and you are not audible.
Hare Krishna Moji. I was talking about that we have learned about Atma Mayam. Atma Mayam, we have got transcendental and we have got nothing to do with the material world.
Okay. Karunatara Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. Prabhuji, we were talking about I and my. We should get above I and my, and we should get in touch with Lord. And if we get in touch with Lord, then only we'll be freed from this Maya. And that this is done through bhakti. Through bhakti, we can come, we can reach God.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Murari Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. We spoke about the Lord is fully independent, and because we wanted to be also independent from God, so He give us a place in this material world. So when we want to go back to Godhead, we must give up this independent mentality.
Well, it's okay. I just like to refine that just to make sure that we have understood, because the problem is not the independence. The problem is not that we have to give up our independence. We cannot give up our independence, because in one sense, that's who we are. The point is that we have to stop misusing the independence. You know, not misuse. I'm sure that you understood. I just wanted to make sure that is clear, because we always have that choice, and the problem is that we are misusing it. Okay, and because we want to be independent from God, we don't want to depend on God. You know, we want to. In fact, not only we want to be independent from God, we just want to be fully independent. So I can do whatever I want. I can enjoy the way I want. I can, be God. But then we cannot be, but like the child who wants the moon and the mother offers the reflection. So Krishna says, okay, you want to act like this. So here is a material world with a whole variety of enjoyment, but it doesn't work. You can enjoy the reflection, but anyway, here it is. And then we're here playing in the land of illusion, and then it's very hard to get any level of satisfaction or contentment. And even if we do, it's temporary. And even if we do for a long period of time, it cannot compare with the satisfaction that we can derive from bhakti, from devotional service. Okay, thank you so much. Vinoy Damodar.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, Prabhu. Prabhu, while describing the troublesome of this material, what you mentioned the pastime of His Holiness Indradyumna Swami Maharaj and Srila Prabhupada, where Srila Prabhupada said that when I will take back you to Godhead, there will be no troublesome anymore.
Yeah. Nice meditation to have. All right. Okay, let's see in the chat box. There is a few more comments there. Life is meant for hearing. Okay. Yeah, life is meant for hearing. That's like a nice kind of mantra, like a motto, we should, keep that in mind. Life is meant for hearing. Anytime we get an opportunity, we should utilize it for hearing. And of course, hearing what? Hearing the transcendental message. I discussed about the advantages and the disadvantages of devotional service. Was favorable and was not favorable. Very good. Jai Radha Dasi. We discussed the reason for the living entity suffering, even though we're originally spirit souls, and how to. Okay, so what is the reason? What is the reason? The reason is that we are. Okay, tell me, what is the reason?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Misuse or independence. Okay, we should learn to. Okay, that's another point. Really, Srimad Bhagavatam. Karunatara Mataji, yes, tell us.
Yeah, Hare Krishna. Prabhuji, actually, that's what I think. The reason why we are suffering so much is because we are considering that we are Maya. I mean, we are involved in Maya, and we are considering I. This is mine. This is my family. This is my brother. This is my husband. This is my family. I mean, everything attached to me is mine. That is the reason we are suffering, and why God is giving us suffering is because He wants. By giving this suffering, He wants us to be detached from this world. Naturally, we'll have suffering. We will not be we don't want that suffering. So we will become detached and we will go towards God, and we will understand that we are this we are not this body, we are this soul. So
Yeah,
by this, through bhakti, we go back to God, and that's the main thing. Like a father, he wants us to be that we should come back, but we are not going back. That is
very
why
good. Yeah,
we have turned our back. For that, he wants us to that we should go back to him. So he is giving us the suffering so that we can attain that higher taste and come back to him.
nice. So like Mahavira Prabhu is also writing that identification with matter is the cause of the problem. Yeah. Because the moment that we want to enjoy, we are giving a material situation, and we, like you said, we become completely absorbed in that situation, like in a dream, in the sense that in the dream we think we are we are creating a situation where we think we may be someone else or doing something else, and things are happening, but they are not real, in the sense that as soon as we wake up from the dream, everything is gone. So material existence is a bit like a dream. Let's go back to the presentation, and then we'll discuss this further. Thank you so much for all your contributions. Okay, so here is Prabhupada's words. So our contact with matter is just like a dream. We are not fallen. This is perhaps, I think, the most kind of difficult concept to understand. We are not fallen. So how is it that we are not fallen? Well, we are not fallen because we never, we're always a spirit by nature. And in one sense, we don't come in touch with matter. It's only by the influence of the material energy that we think we are matter. Okay, so I'll keep reading. Therefore, at any moment, we can revive our Krishna consciousness. We become liberated as soon as we understand, I have nothing to do with matter. I am simply Krishna's eternal servant. I am Das, Gopi Bartu Padakamalayur, Dasa Dasa Anudasa. I am Dasa Dasa Anudasa. I am the servant of the servant of the servant of the devotees, of the gopis, of Krishna. I am, this is who really I am. I remember many years ago, I think it was Sachinandan Swami was, anyway, I don't know where I heard it, but he was telling himself, like, I'm a servant, I'm a servant, I'm a servant, and I put it into practice. I remember I was actually teaching, that was like over 10 years ago. I was in Vrindavan teaching, and I kept saying that mantra, I am a servant, I am a servant, I am a servant. And it had such an impact in my consciousness, in the way I related to other devotees, in the way I took darshan of the deities, in the way I chanted the holy name, in the way I did my puja. I am a servant, I am a servant, because the consciousness of being the controller or being the enjoyer, it brings about so much friction in the heart, so much suffering. People don't act the way we want. We have we place so many expectations on God, on the world, on and it just causes tension and causes suffering, because we are not master, we are servants. And when we act in this consciousness of being servant, immediately we become satisfied. I remember when I was doing book distribution and many years back, and some days were really difficult, and we could go back. It was like maybe the weather was not bad, or people were not so friendly, and I remember coming back and feeling what you call it, like the word, like dejected, or just like, and reading Bhaktivinoda Thakur's songs, and where he says that when one remembers that one is the eternal servant of Krishna, then all the miseries are automatically eliminated. No more dukkha, no more misery. So our practice of Krishna consciousness is is meant to bring us to this consciousness. I am not this body. Yeah, that's true. But that's not the full truth. Okay? So if I'm not the body, what am I? I'm a soul. Is that the truth? Yes, that's the truth, but it's incomplete still. But what is the soul? I am Krishna's servant. True? Yeah, could be more complete todavía. Still, sorry, I mixed Spanish there. It could be more complete even. Okay? I am Dasa Anudasa. I am the servant of the servants of the devotees. I'm not Krishna's direct servant. I can only approach Krishna through his servants. That means waking up from the dream. Now, Prabhupada writes, sometimes when a fearful dream becomes intolerable, we break the dream. Maybe it happened to us. Sometimes we have to go through a very, very painful experience to just break from the dream, break the attachments, give it up. I don't want this life, and I don't want this. I don't want this kind of disappointment anymore. We can, material. Like Prabhupada said, was asked one time, well, but spiritual life is difficult, and Prabhupada said, yeah, spiritual life is difficult, but material life is impossible. We're bound. And don't get me wrong. That doesn't mean that we become morose or depressed, or we don't execute our, material duties, you could say, or our, not material duties, our duties in this world, in relationship to the body, to the family, with full enthusiasm. That's not the point. But the point is that we have to understand what is the actual goal, and what is actually my real identity. My real identity is not that I am, a teacher, or that I am a father, or I am Spanish, or I am, that's not actually my real identity is I am Dasa Nudasa. So similarly, we can break the material connection at any moment as soon as we wake up to Krishna consciousness. Oh Krishna, oh, Krishna is my eternal master. I am his servant. That's all. That is the way. So, and how is life is like a dream. So Prabhupada was explaining, I think we read it, anyway. Okay, I'll read this quote also. He said, just see how important is this verse. It is already there, but you're not reading each verse. Read every day carefully. Try to assimilate, understand, and you will get more profit every day. 100 yards forward, 100 yards forward. Yes, they are so important verses. How nicely composed by Vyasadeva. In 2 lines, the whole thing is explained. This is called Shastra, in 2 lines. So what is the result of this taking shelter of Maya, that wanting to enjoy separate from God? So that's text number 2. We discussed it yesterday. We're still trying to assimilate this knowledge, because, okay, the thing is that, then the illusion living, okay, I'll read the verse. The illusion living entity, and in fact, because we didn't read the Sanskrit, we just read the Sanskrit also, okay? Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Bahurupa iva bhati mayaya bahurupaya Rama mano guneswasya mamaham iti manyate. The illusion living entity appears in so many forms offered by the external energy of the Lord. While enjoying in the modes of material nature, the engaged living entity misconceives, thinking in terms of I and mine. Okay, so I'll read from the purport. There were some questions on the WhatsApp that we can discuss today. I don't remember them all, but you can bring them up whenever is appropriate. You know, because I think one of them was in relation to this verse by Asaf Prabhu. Okay, I'll read. It says the living entity creates his own body. This is like at the bottom of the page. If you have actually the physical book, the living entity creates his own body by his personal desires, and the external energy of the Lord supplies him the exact form by which he can enjoy his desires to the fullest extent. Okay, so someone wrote in the WhatsApp that only the human beings have got the independent desire. That's not correct. Here, the tiger wanted to enjoy the blood of another animal, the tiger, and therefore, by the grace of the Lord, the material energy supplied him the body of the tiger, which facilitates for enjoying blood from another animal. You see, science of transmigration is being explained here. What determines what is our next birth? It is two things. It is our desire and it is our actions, our karma, in other words. So the analogy is sometimes given, like if you want to buy a car, okay, and the material body is nothing else but a vehicle. So if I want to buy a car, what determines what car I buy? The car I want to buy, okay, that will be like some car that I like, but also how much money I have in my pocket. I may want to buy a Rolls Royce, but I may not be able to afford it. Okay, so our desire is one aspect, but then our karma, that's like how much cash you have. That's what determines, you know, what type of body you get. So if you are a sinful person and you want to enjoy like eating meat, for example, then you take you will go to hell, and then you take the birth in the animal kingdom as a carnivore. If you like swimming, if you like flying, if you like surfing, what's your your vibe, what you want to do in life? Okay, so I want to enjoy sex life. So here it comes. You're in the human form. How much sex you can enjoy is very limited. Become a pigeon. Then you can have sex multiple times every day. If you want to sleep, become a bear. You can sleep for months. You want to fly. There are all these different varieties of living entities are there to give facility to the living entity to fulfill their desires. Now, in the animal kingdom, we don't have the choice to now like decide that I'm going to, practice devotional service. Although there are exceptions when, we hear about Bala Maharaj, there are exceptions, but the general rule that in the animal kingdom, we're just burning karma. Okay. And then we progress, you take birth as an animal and you progress from one species to the other. I'll keep reading. I know there is many raise hands, but I want to just cover a little more, and then we will attend to the questions, because maybe your questions are going to be answered as the presentation goes on. Now, it says, the tiger wanted to enjoy the blood of another animal, and therefore, by the grace of the Lord, the material energy supplied him the body of the tiger, which facilitates for enjoying blood from another animal. Similarly, a living entity desiring to get the body of a demigod in a higher planet can also get it by the grace of the Lord. And if he's intelligent enough, he can desire to get a spiritual body to enjoy the company of the Lord, and he will get it. So the minute freedom of the living entity can be fully utilized. And the Lord is so kind that he will award the living entity the same type of body he desires. The living entity's desiring is like dreaming of a golden mountain. A person knows what a mountain is, And he also knows what gold is. But out of his desire only, he dreams of a golden mountain. And when the dream is over, he sees something else in his presence. He finds in his awakened state that there is neither gold nor a mountain. And what to speak of a golden mountain? Okay. So here we have a little video that illustrates what's the problem. Let's see if it plays. Just 1 second, I don't know why it's not playing. Oops. Okay. That's the same soul is in quality residing within every living entity. But the dress of the soul changes according to what? According to the consciousness of the soul, according to the desires of the soul. We transmigrate from one body to another. But all these situations, in one sense, is like a dream. And when you are in a dream, if you're having a bad dream, okay, what is the solution? Do you have nightmares sometimes? You're trying to get to the airport and, there is traffic jam, or, so many different varieties of nightmares are there. And then you're sweating. Maybe someone is stealing your computer. I don't know. And you're sweating in the dream, and it's like, and eventually, how do you get out of that situation? You wake up. You wake up. Finish. So this waking up is what we call Krishna consciousness. Okay. Now, therefore, when one is advanced in spiritual consciousness, he does not see the varieties of form, because these varieties of form are not real. From airplane, you can experience the cloud you are running, you're seeing one form. After a few minutes, that form is changing to different form. Therefore, it is called Ivabhati. You immediately see a cloud just like a big elephant. But after a few minutes, you see the same cloud is changed into just like a big hill, a big tree. So this is going on. Today I am Indian, you're American, but next birth or after a few years, although American, the body is changing. Body is changing. Therefore, it is written there, Ivabhati, as if he has got a body. As if, Ivabhati, it appears. Okay, so the idea is like this. Even in your own life, I can give myself as an example that, if I go back, like say 26 years back, maybe 27 years back, and I look at who I was then, okay, I was living in a different country. I was speaking a different language. I was looking very different to now. Very, very different. To the extent that recently, a couple of years ago, I was in Spain, and I met one of my best friends. Okay, I was just in a small town, and I was looking for directions. I saw this guy sitting on a table, and I went to him to ask him for directions, and voila, one of my closest friends. And I asked him, I said, "Hey, how are you?" And he looked at me, "Do I know you?" And I said, "Yeah, don't you remember?" I said, "Wow." And I said, it's been so many years. It's just like, we kept asking about you, but, after 10 years, we just forgot, So I look different. And the place where I lived, it also has changed because, there is so much construction taking place. So my set of friends also changed. So when I look back to that person who I was like 30 years ago, it's almost like a dream. The long hair is gone. The friends are gone. Some of them have died. The place is gone. The places I used to go, the bars I used to go, the it's all changed. It's not there anymore. So it's just like a dream. But at that moment, that was my reality. I was identifying with that reality so much. Similarly, now I have also created my own reality. And because I identify with that reality, the more I identify with that reality and that sense of ego, the more I will suffer. But the more I identify with being who I really am, that means I am a servant of the devotees. I'm, a follower of Srila Prabhupada. I'm Krishna's servant. I'm a soul. Then the least I'm going to suffer in the material world. Okay? Prabhupada writes, here is a perverted reflection. We say, just like shadow, the shadow of the tree in the water, everything is perverted, opposite. So that shadow is not the substance. The substance is there on the bank of the river. That is really. Similarly, the spiritual world is there also. Everything is there. There are trees, there are fruits, there are flowers, there are men. Everything is there. Birds, beasts, everything. But they are all real. Here, Bahurupa. Huh? Bahurupa Ivhavati, which is not reality. That this Bahurupa is also reflection, but it is not real. Now, this is part of Chatusloki Bhagavatam. Okay, so we have discussed many of the points of Chatusloki Bhagavatam. We have discussed already, chapter 6. And we're discussing now also. That it's not real doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. It exists, but the value that we add to it, that's what is illusion. I think this is my real father. This is my real mother. This is not real in that sense. But the material energy is real. And I will touch upon that. We'll discuss that more when we come to Chatusloki. But I just wanted to make that point. That is the difference. So spiritual world actually, and it is Ivhavati. It appears like that. But those who are fools, they are attached to this Ivhavati. If someone goes, oh, here is a nice woman, let me embrace. That is foolishness. That is Ivhavati. That is difference. So therefore, this very word is used, Ivhavati. Actually, it is all matter, but they have been changed into different forms. We are not these bodies. We are the soul. When we see other people, we should see they're also souls. They are parts and parcels of Krishna. They are also Krishna's servants, engaged in a body. Okay? Now, what happens when one, that's text number 3, okay? As soon as the living entity, this is a result of coming to Krishna consciousness, right? As soon as the living entity becomes situated in his constitutional glory, what is his constitutional glory? We are spirit souls. We're the servants of Krishna. And begins to enjoy the transcendence beyond time and material energy, he at once gives up the two misconceptions of life, I and mine, and thus becomes fully manifested as the pure self. Okay? Now, how do we do this? The spiritual science cannot be understood simply by academic knowledge or by challenge. The seva vritti, the service attitude, must be there. Otherwise, it will never be understood. Yasya deve para bhaktir yata deve tata gurau. These are the Vedic injunction. So let us have. Each and every sloka should be very, very scrutinizingly understood. That should be the first business in the temples. Sorry? That should be the first business in the temples. How important this is. Huh? We have got so many books. Simply, if we make arrangements for selling, not for understanding, then it will be simply materialistic. Okay, so that comes to the end of that section. Now I can take questions on this, and I saw that there were many raised hands. So let me just see who raised their hands. Okay, I'll go to the chat box. Okay, so that we read already. Now let's see who was first. Yamashtami Prabhu. Unmute yourself first.
Yeah, as we go through purification, oftentimes our interactions within the movement causes us some distress because of a misidentification of ourselves as the body and the I and mind concept. And what I've seen over the years is that now most of the devotees that are participating in the course aren't living within an ISKCON project, I think. But what I've seen over the years is that many devotees start blaming ISKCON, and they oftentimes disassociate themselves. So rather than seeing that actually this is something that's good for me, even though it may be painful. Maybe I'm being mistreated or misunderstood. But anyway, that's just some thoughts that I had because it's very relevant to our situations as devotees within Prabhupada's mission. Prabhupada would say, ISKCON, for all thy faults, I love thee. He paralleled
Yeah,
that.
I'm just trying to make the connection. I'm trying to make the connection between. I know where you're coming from, and it's a very valid point. But what is the connection to what we're discussing right now? I failed to see that.
Well, the point is that the way we become free from the distresses is to take up devotional service and come to the platform of seeing ourselves as a servant. So you gave the example of how you would sometimes have a really tough day on book distribution, but then you would have this mantra, I'm the servant of the servant of the servant, and the stress would dissipate. So I guess that was
nice. Thank you so much. Yeah, and I was actually I think it was Mahavira Prabhu who asked a few weeks or last week, well, I'm over 50 now. What can I do to ensure that I make the most of the rest of my life? I think it was him. Anyway, someone asked that question, and I replied that Panchanga Bhakti. But the one thing that we should never forget is that this is a preaching movement, and therefore, if we want to get the blessings of our masters, of our acharyas, therefore we should engage in the preaching mission. And so therefore, and going back to your point, that unfortunately a lot of the things that had taken place in ISKCON and the devotees have been disturbed by, they were actually real causes of disturbance. It wasn't that the devotees were upset for no reason. They were upset for valid reasons. But my understanding of that is that Krishna is the supreme controller anyway, and he sees that we are taking that austerity on his behalf, and he reciprocates with that. Like the early devotees in the movement, they gave up many things, and as a result of that, some areas of their lives may have been affected, but they gain the wealth of Krishna consciousness, basically. So anyway, I think that's what you're trying to say, that we should see that this is part of the purification. This is part of the mercy, and we should not, lose faith on the process or lose hope. Okay, is that what you're trying to say, bro?
Yeah, and what I've noticed is that those that stick with, just like we're coming up in the subsequent verses, 5 through 9, the Lord Brahma, he practiced these austerities, and as a result of that, then full knowledge was manifested in his heart, and he realized his relationship with Krishna. So by sticking it out through thick and thin, what I've seen is those that exit when the going gets tough, even though there may be some, unreasonable dealings, they don't do very well. But those that stick with it and keep on perform the tapasya and continue to preach and push on Prabhupada's mission, then they become advanced, even though they also went through their share of difficulties.
Yeah. Thank you. And this is a very good introduction for what we're going to discuss in the next section. So I would like to kind of move back to the topic of the soul here. But yeah, this is very nice. And I will add to that my experience is that those devotees who are very empowered and who radiate Krishna consciousness just by their presence, every single one of them, they have gone through the mill. It's like, and even, I mean, we have examples like, for example, I'm thinking of His Holiness Indradyumna Swami, who has this kind of very, easygoing kind of, nature, you could say. I mean, it's like you hear his kirtans and his smile and the way he interacts. It's like, yeah, we're going back home, back to Godhead. It's all joyful. So, I mean, I don't know how much, he has gone through the mill, but generally, for what I see is that every single devotee has been put under tremendous amount of pressure to push on with this movement. And I'm sure that even those who are very cheerful, like him, to this day, they have to, undergo so much tapasya and austerity for the sake of preaching Krishna consciousness. And sometimes we may not see it because we just see, their bliss. Anyway, let's go back to that topic in a few verses. Okay, Mahavira Prabhu, thank you, Jamastami Prabhu. Mahavira Prabhu, you wanted to comment something?
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji. I had one small query from the lecture of Prabhupada on verse 2.9.1. So actually, he mentions in this lecture that when he was pronouncing the word in the shloka, Gate Tartha, and Pradumna was pronouncing and Prabhupada correcting him. And he said that why so much trouble is being taken word to word, meaning and then transliteration. If you chant this mantra, that vibration will cleanse the atmosphere, and wherever you go in any part of the world, if you can chant this mantra, oh, you will be received like God. It is so nice, and in India, he'll actually receive like gods. If you chant this mantra, they will so offer their respect, so many, Ved mantra. So actually, I'm not able to understand and appreciate the relation between chanting of this mantra and getting respect all over the world.
Well, it's different ways we can understand this. I'll give you my own understanding. Okay,
yes. Yes.
One can only fly as long as high as his wings. So I'll give you my limited understanding. But basically, whatever we do in Krishna consciousness has not only an impact on our own souls, but has an impact on the universe. We chant Hare Krishna, that sound vibration goes around the planet multiple times. So we're not only cleansing our hearts, we're cleansing the entire planet. And maybe like in the material in this planet Earth, sometimes the devotees may be persecuted. That's what you fail to understand, right? That sometimes the devotees are persecuted or not welcome or this, but That's just a tiny fraction of the residents of the universe. The whole spiritual world is favorable to Krishna consciousness. The demigods are favorable to Krishna consciousness, and we may not see that picture when I'm giving a book out in the streets. The whole parampara is behind me. I'm not just alone doing this. It's Prabhupada behind me, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Gaura Kishore Das Bhami, and the demigods. Everybody is showering blessings upon these people. So the idea is that when we chant Hare Krishna, we are inviting auspiciousness. Subhada is the beginning of all auspiciousness, right? Krishna consciousness. So that includes that we're going to be well received.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Is that making any sense?
Yes.
I don't know if that makes sense.
I understood it very nicely. You explained. And another thing you just mentioned in text number 2, constitutional glory. So the constitutional glory, does it mean that we are spirit, soul, and servants of Krishna? Is that correct understanding?
Yep.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
Murari Prabhu?
Yes, Hare Krishna Prabhu. I wanted to ask that you mentioned that you showed the Prabhupada pictures with that we can awaken from the dream, that we understand that we are the servant of the Lord. And my question is about when we actually came to this understanding, then we can see also that we still have some anarthas which condition us. So it means that we actually are awakening, or we are, like we we are awakened from the dream that we already know this, but still we are conditioned. If you can say something about this.
Both in one sense, you see, all analogies are in one sense not perfect, right? So this is an analogy to illustrate the point, but the idea is that being conditioned and being slept, being in the dream, to the degree that we are conditioned, to that degree that we're in the dream, and to the degree that we are not conditioned, to the degree that we're awakened. So basically, when we are actually, we may know theoretically that I am the soul, okay? But to know it, to understand that we are the soul is not the same as to know it. It's like Gyan and Vigyan, right? Like Prabhupada, when he was leaving this world, his body was emaciated. He was like just basically bones and skin, he had not eaten for so long. And he quoted that verse, Dehinas min yata dehe komanam yavanam yara tata dehantara praptir viras tatra namuhyati. So the soul, the learned, a sober man is not bewildered by the changes in the body from boyhood to youth to old age. He's not bewildered. He was not bewildered. He was realized. He was awake. But we get just some fever, or we get some toothache, and we fall into the trap of bodily identification. So the point I'm making is that we may have understood theoretically that we are not these bodies, that we're the soul, we're the eternal servant of Krishna. But what is going to give the realization is to live according to those principles. And that is a gradual process. Like Burijan Prabhu gives a nice example. He says that, it's like a train which is going to change direction, 180 degrees. So if you want to change direction, the train generally, is a very gradual change of direction now, because it's very long and it goes in like a broad, wide angle to change direction. It doesn't happen immediately. So, in our awakening of Krishna consciousness, it's like that. Is in one sense, you could say it's a slow process. It's gradual. You could call it slow, or you can call it gradual. wouldn't you just, immediately change? And the more we practice, the more we realize this. I don't know if I told this story before, but it's relevant to this and it's relevant to what we're discussing. If I have told the story here, you please tell me, and because I don't remember, I get mixed. But when I first came to Mayapur, I had been serving in a temple which was very isolated. Hardly any senior Vaishnavas will come there. His Holiness Bhaktivaibhava Swami will come once a year, maybe Shivaran Swami. And even His Holiness Bhaktivaibhava Swami, he came twice or thrice, Hardly anyone came. And I was always eager for senior association. And I came to Mayapur, and all of a sudden it was like a abundant senior association. It was like a feast, There were no one sannyasi, there were many sannyasis, there were many Prabhupada disciples, and there were classes, and I was like, like a kid in a like a sweet shop, And I remember I was thinking, I started to kind of got some association with Jananivas Prabhu and Pankajangri Prabhus, and I was thinking, well, what makes a soul advance? They are doing the same things as we do, attending Mangalarti, chanting Hare Krishna, but these devotees are very advanced. So what makes them advanced? And did I tell the story or no? I don't know. No, okay. So then what makes them advance? And I was thinking about it, and then it just kind of hit me, a simple thing, but it was that to the degree that these devotees, they have put Krishna in the center of their lives. To the degree that I remove myself from the center and I put Krishna and his desires, to that degree, I am Krishna conscious. It's not about putting tilak on and, wearing nice kantimala and looking paka, It's about that, putting Krishna's pleasure. Bhakti means it's a deep conception of the heart that I want to give Krishna pleasure. So I was thinking, and as I was thinking like this, I was thinking, gosh, this is so heavy, I find that I was so heavy. And then I wrote to my Siksha Guru, who is an editor, and His Holiness Keshava Bharati Das Goswami, and he wrote back, and he wrote something. He said, well, it's nice you're having nice realizations there. He said, but I like to correct you, And he says that Krishna consciousness is not heavy. He said, Maya is heavy. And so anyway, that was the point, that we are afraid to put Krishna in the center of our lives because whatever, we're attached, but actually when we do that, we feel liberated, we feel lighter. So anyway, the point is that it's about putting Krishna in the center of our lives. It's not just knowing I am not this body, but it's actually acting it out. And just to give another example, when His Holiness Giriraj Maharaj, he was in Mumbai, in Juhu, he was the temple president there. And Prabhupada came to visit, and Giriraj Swami was showing him around. And then he said, Prabhupada said, so how is everything? He said, oh, how are you? And he said, well, I'm okay, but sometimes I fall into Maya a little bit, And then Prabhupada said, well, actually, no. He said, I'm in Krishna consciousness, but sometimes I fall into Maya. And Prabhupada said, actually, no. He says, you're always in Maya, and sometimes you fall into Krishna consciousness. Giriraj Swami was a very sincere, advanced devotee. He had given his life to Prabhupada, But that's the understanding. So anyway, I don't know if that answers your question or makes it more clear.
Yes, thank you, Prabhuji.
Because we hear also, like, at the beginning of the second verse, right, of the Bhagavatam, Dharma Proitaka Tra Paramo Nirmat Saranam Satam Vedyam Vastavam vastu atra shivanam tapa tapatrayam mulanam Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kimva Parar Ishvare Sadhya Riddhi Avarudyate Trakritivi Sususuvi Stakshanat. He says that this Bhagavatam, this knowledge uproots the threefold miseries. Okay? Uproots the threefold miseries. But you know, we are practicing Krishna consciousness. We're still so much affected by the threefold miseries because it's gradual. Realization needs to take place. Okay, Sachitanai Prabhu. As Srila Prabhupada explains here, the jiva wants to enjoy and get the body of accordingly, tiger, etc. My question is, what is the destiny at the end of a tiger's body? Does tiger wish to get another body, or it gets another body through the process of evolution only? Yes, it's through the process of evolution. Once you fall into the animal kingdom, you just go from one living entity to another. Okay. In human body, it is possible. Yeah, but that's something different to what was written in the WhatsApp. You know, was written in WhatsApp. Only the living entity has these souls. They are put into this condition because of their desires. That the fact that the tiger moves up another, you know, to the next body, it means he has also still desires, material desires. Krishna has made an arrangement. Okay, I think it's just, you know, I think it's clear to both of us. I hope. Is it? Okay. Vinoy. And it's 2:00, so we last question. Vinoy Damodar, Prabhu, are you there?
Sorry, Prabhu, it was from previous one. Sorry, Prabhu. No question.
No question. Okay. Yamashtami. Unmute yourself, please.
A quick point on in response to Murari Prabhu's question. This is from Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Sri Bhajan Darpana. All other unwanted desires may be eradicated, but the hankering for honor and distinction is extremely difficult to uproot. That's pratishta. And there's another, this is, I don't want to take a lot of time, but this is real quick. This is from Raghunath Das Goswami's Manashiksha. My dear brother mind, this despicable desire for material honor and distinction is compared to a shameless and low-born prostitute who eats dog meat. Yet she is flagrantly dancing in my heart. How then can the pristine love of pure devotion to Sri Krishna ever find a place in my heart?
Thank you. Nice. All right, so we move into the next section. That took a lot longer, but this is a very, very important part, and it's important that we get it, we understand it correctly. So now, the next section, the Lord reveals Vaikuntha. Actually, Jiva Goswami explains, can you see the screen? No, okay, my sorry. Jiva Goswami explains that these verses describe Dwarka. From verses, well, actually, no, from verses 13, I think it is. Okay, so let's move ahead. This is text number 4. Okay. And now this is the answer to what question by Parikshit Maharaj. Parikshit Maharaj had asked about the difference between the body of the Lord and of Brahma. Okay. Atma Tattva Vishuddhyartam Yadaha Bhagavan Ritam Brahmane Darshayan Rupam Avyalika Vratadrita. O Krishna, O King, the personality of Godhead, be very much pleased with Lord Brahma because of his non-deceptive penance in Bhakti Yoga, presented his eternal and transcendental form before Brahma. And that is the objective goal for purifying the conditioned soul. This is a very, very, very wonderful purport. So I'm going to the second paragraph, a few lines down the second paragraph. Okay, well, let's read from the second paragraph onwards. Very, very important. It says in Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that only by Bhakti Yoga can one know him perfectly. And then one can enter into the science of God. Brahmaji undertook great penance in performing Bhakti Yoga, and thus he was able to see the transcendental form of the Lord. His transcendental form is 100% spiritual, and one can see him only by spiritualized vision after proper discharge of tapasya or penance in pure Bhakti Yoga. Okay, so that's the answer to the question, right? The form of the Lord manifested before Brahma is not one of the forms with which we have experience in the material world. Brahmaji did not perform such severe types of penance just to see a form of material production. Therefore, the question by Maharaj Parikshit about the form of the Lord is answered. Clear? The form of the Lord is Sachit Ananda, or eternal, full of knowledge and full of bliss. But the material form of the living entity is neither eternal, nor full of knowledge, nor blissful. That is the distinction between the form of the Lord and that of the conditioned soul. The conditioned soul, however, can regain his form of eternal knowledge and bliss simply by seeing the Lord by means of Bhakti Yoga. The summary is that due to ignorance, the conditioned soul is encaged in the temporary varieties of material forms, but the Supreme Lord has no such temporary form like the conditioned souls. He is always possessed of an eternal form of knowledge and bliss, and that is the difference between the Lord and the living entity. One can understand this difference by the process of Bhakti Yoga. Brahma was then told by the Lord the gist of Srimad Bhagavatam in 4 original verses. That Srimad Bhagavatam is not a creation of the mental speculators. The sound of Srimad Bhagavatam is transcendental, and the resonance of Srimad Bhagavatam is as good as that of the Vedas. Thus, the topic of the Srimad Bhagavatam is the science of both the Lord and the living entity. Regular reading or hearing of Srimad Bhagavatam is also performance of Bhakti Yoga, and one can attain the highest perfection simply by the association of Srimad Bhagavatam. Both Sukadeva Goswami and Maharaj Parikshit attained perfection through the medium of Srimad Bhagavatam. Beautiful.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, in the translation it was mentioned non-deceptive penance. So,
Okay, so what does it mean? Tell us, Mahavira Rupa Prabhu, what means non-deceptive penance? Thank you for the question. Very good question.
yeah, without any material desires, is this correct understanding?
No. I'll give you you can try again. You're warm but not hot, as they say.
Without any business kind of mentality, like if I'm doing penance, I want something in return, without any expecting anything in return.
Yes, that's accurate.
This is correct understanding.
It's correct, but you can add more to it. Okay, I'll give you a hint. Can you do non-deceptive Bhakti Yoga with material desires?
No.
Okay, rest of Bhaktivaibhava Module 1 students, please chat, write on the chat box, yes or not. Can you do non-deceptive Bhakti Yoga with material desires? Yes or not?
Yes.
Okay, now you change your mind, Mahavira. You said no
Yes.
a minute ago.
Yes, I changed my mind because.
Okay, wait. Let's just hear. Yamastami says yes. Rajshekar, no. Veera Gopal, yes. Come on, let's hear from everybody. I want to know that you're all there. Some of you haven't heard one single comment in 3 weekends. Okay, Mani Gopal, thank you. Gopal Ganasraya, yes. Amala Manjari, nice. Dineshwara Krishna, Karunatara, Shrivas Pandit. Jai Radhe, okay. Nice. So we have yes, 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 yes. Okay, thank you very much. You're all graduated from Bhakti Sastri, Nectar of Devotion. I mean, you could say strictly, and in the case of Brahma, he had no material desires, okay? And that's why he's Lord Brahma and that he was creating the universe. But the point about non-deceptive means that you no duplicity. It means that even if you have material desires, your purpose is in your actions is to please the Lord. It's like your second comment you made is that you are not expecting anything in return. Like I may do bhakti, but I may have some hidden agenda. If I am doing bhakti and I have a hidden agenda, it means it's deceptive. But if I am, even if my heart is full of material desires, but my dear Lord, I'm so ashamed of myself. I still have all these lingering desires in my heart, but I really want to please you. You please kindly engage me in your service. Kindly help me. That's non-deceptive. Yeah? But if it's like, we're having some expectation that, okay, well, if I serve you, Krishna, you're going to make my life good. I'm going to get peace of mind and people are going to be nice to me and I'm going to be able to lead wonderful kirtans and, play mridanga and, get a lot of respect. That's deceptive.
Thank you very much. I have understood very clearly. Thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, so let's move on. So, I think we read this in the purport. Let me just see for a second. Yeah, we just read it. Okay, we just read this there. Okay, this is beautiful purport 294. So nice. Now, okay. So just to clarification, in case you didn't get it, this is let's see. Srila Sridhar Swami explains how this verse answers the second question about the difference between the body of the Lord and the jiva. The jiva is related with the body of ignorance by avidya, by yoga maya of the Lord's form of knowledge and pastance appear. This great difference is expressed in this verse. Okay, so now we read until verse 19. Okay. So you have done this homework at home, right? And what was the homework? Homework was to find points. Someone remembers this? Let me just stop sharing. Okay, I'm going to go to verse 8. Before we do that, let's just go to verse 8 because it's a beautiful Sanskrit verse. And I'd like just to read it. Prabhupada comments here. It says, Divyam sahasrabdam amoga darshano yita nilatma vijito vayendriyam atapya tasma kilalokatapanam tapas tapiyam tapatam samahita. Prabhupada writes, this is called anuprasa. It is literary beauty. Everything ta. Tapas tapiyams tapatam samahita anuprasa. So many T's in one line. Tapas tapiyam. So in Bhagavatat, it is not that whimsically written. There is literary beauty, metaphor, simile, and what is called symmetry. Everything is complete. How many words in the beginning, first line? How many words in the second line? Sahitya Dharpana. There is a book, Sahitya Dharpana. Therefore, it is called Sanskrit. Sanskrit, everything is reform. Sanskrita means reform. Sanskrit language, Devanagari. This language is spoken in the higher planetary system, even in Vaikuntha. So it's just a nice appreciation, Prabhupada, of the Bhagavatam. And, you know, the topmost message, if you want to present the topmost message, how the topmost, or how you could say how a message is presented, it gives you also an idea of the value of the message. I don't know Sanskrit myself, but I remember Radhika Raman Prabhu, he was giving a class and he was explaining that the Sanskrit of Srimad Bhagavatam is so kind of, you know, elaborate that it says that it will put to test your learning of Sanskrit. Like great scholars, non-devotee scholars, they know that basically in order to be able to understand and translate the Bhagavatam, you have to have a very, very high level of, you know, learning of Sanskrit. It's so beautifully composed, so many varieties of meters, like in this verse, just in one line, these beautiful ornaments. So this should give us also conviction that what is being presented here is the absolute truth, and is presented in the most refined language in the universe and in the most beautiful composition. Like one Sanskrit scholar, he was saying that the Sanskrit of the Bhagavatam, it will put to shame the English of Shakespeare. So nicely composed. Okay, so I wanted to see some of the okay, here it is actually. I have it here. 1 second. So the exercise was to select statements and purpose from verses 9 to 17, which give a description of Vaikuntha, which can be applied in a preaching context. Okay. So did you do the exercise? And if you do, maybe we can do a little sharing here. I don't think there is a need to divide into groups or to do the drawing exercise, but can we do some sharing on this now? Is that okay? So let's hear from some of the devotees. You can raise your hands. You can copy and paste on the chat box. Are we ready for this? Did you do the exercise? May I know, did you do the exercise or not? Because if you didn't, then we cannot do it now like this. Did you do it? Who did it? Type yes if you did it on the chat box. Okay, we have 3 people out of 23. Come on, let's see anyone else. Okay, red, but didn't collect. Okay, 3.5, we could say. Okay, okay, more, 4, 5. Okay, nice. All right, so would you like to share some of these statements? The exercise were to, and this is one of the essays, I think you can, some of these exercises we are doing them in class, so you can, you know, complete your open book assessment. Okay, so I'm getting some messages here. Let's see. Going back, it says Mahamani and Madhumati. Okay, it says Vaikuntha planet is described to show variegatedness of the spiritual world. Okay, so that's a preaching point. Can you elaborate upon it a little more? What do you mean by that? It is correct, eh? This is a very good point, in fact. But what do you mean by that? How is that a preaching point?
People might think there is like the Brahman, everything is Brahman and everything is one. So there's no this merging into the Brahman, there is no variegatedness. So that's why it's been explained. So to give the impression like the spiritual world has got, Lord has got all the devotees with him, his paramour and everyone. So that's just like spiritual world is variegated, not like mundane or what they think of, like not like a merging into Brahman, or not like it's not tasteless. It's like variegated.
Okay. Do you mean there is people there in the spiritual world having a good time? Yes or not? Madhumati,
Hare
did you
Krishna,
hear my
Prabhu.
question? Did you hear my question or not?
What was your question? Sorry, I
The
couldn't
question is,
understand.
do you mean that there is people there in the spiritual world having a good time?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's a good point. Well done. Murli Manohar Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Yeah,
Krishna.
it struck me how insignificant the material universes are, and how insignificant this one planet is, and therefore how insignificant we are in comparison to Vaikuntha. So that was one point. Another point which struck me as well is that the nature of Vaikuntha compared to the material world, it becomes quite obvious that we're in the wrong place. This is a place of suffering, a place of struggle.
Yeah. So what were some of those points? Some of the difference between the spiritual world and the material world. Do you remember any of them?
Specifically, the dimension of size, I think it's mentioned there, is the dimension, the size itself, and how Vaikuntha is not subject to time.
Okay.
It's not subject to, there is no free modes of nature.
Yes, correct.
It has no effect, it mentions there.
Yeah. You know, the influence of time, you know, I am feeling the pressure of time right now.
Yeah.
It's such a powerful force, is it not? And how things decay by the influence of time. You buy something, within a few weeks or a few months, it's deteriorating, right? By the influence of time. But in the spiritual world, nothing decays. And no one is like in a rush. In the same, well, no one is in a rush. I mean, you know, the influence of time is not experienced in the way that we've experienced here, you know, in the way we experience here in the material world, basically. Yeah. Okay, let's see. It said Brahma meditating on Lord for 1,000 celestial. Yeah. Okay, we're gonna go back to those verses. Sachitanai Das. We're gonna go back to that meditation of Lord Brahma. So remind me to answer the question later, okay? Okay, Jai Radhe, free from sufferings. Yeah. Three modes have no effect. Time has no effect. It is blissful existence. Fear of offenses. Can you please explain this? Is that connected to this, Jai Radhe? I don't know what you mean by that. What is the connection of that question?
Yes, Prabhuji. It says it's free from fear of offenses. So.
Which verse is it?
1 second.
While you find that, I'll keep reading. Murari Prabhu, the inhabitants can see the Lord personally there all the time. Vaikuntha Loka, where there is no ignorance, no passion, no illusion, and no past and present. Okay, the body can be in Vaikuntha state, he's always thinking about the Lord. Yeah. Spiritual consciousness. Prabhupada was in that consciousness. And when people came in proximity of Prabhupada, they felt that. Did you find it, Jai Radhe?
No, I can't find it now.
Okay, when you find it, we can go back to it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so this is the you know, the difference, the spiritual world and the material world. Like here, we're explaining, like in one sense, the description is given about what there isn't in the material world. Well, sorry, what there is not in the spiritual world. There is no influence of the three modes. There is no influence of time. Okay, let's see here. This is a quote from Prabhupada in connection with what Mataji was telling us a minute ago about the variegatedness. I like this quote very much. Okay. So, I have protested this false God consciousness in all my purports. That is my business, to punish all these rascals. You see, I become very much angry. Anyone says before me, I am God, he is God, he is God, everyone. I cannot control myself. Yes, I am so obstinate, enemy of these rascals. I want to kick them on their face, but it is incivility. It becomes, but I want to kick them. It will be my pleasure. Never mind, I go to hell. So what's the connection we were describing? That is, you see, this is actually the first time in the Srimad Bhagavatam we're getting a description of the spiritual world. And what we're seeing is that there is variegatedness, and the Lord is residing there and is being served by the devotees. In other words, there is a reality. There is a reality. There is the reality of the spiritual world. And like Murli Manohar Prabhu was saying that, yes, this the spiritual world, when we actually understand the nature of the spiritual world, this material world appears to be so insignificant. And therefore, the devotee, he's not aspiring for anything in this material world. I was mentioning yesterday how Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur, he explained that once that we understand that no material situation is going to make me happy in the material world, that's a huge step in the spiritual life. And when we actually understand that, we give up envy and we give up the material competitive mentality. Remember the Srimad Bhagavatam at the beginning, it says, who is the Bhagavatam for? Huh? Nirmat Saranam Satang is for those who are non-envious. Now, how the devotee is free from envy? Well, one way in which the devotee is free from envy is that he's coveting something much higher now. The devotee, he's not so much interested in what this material world has to offer. Because what can the material world offer to us, really, right? He's fixed on Krishna. He's fixed on attaining something much higher. So therefore, he's free from envy, from what other people may have acquired in this material existence, right? Okay, so this knowledge about the spiritual world is like an impetus for the devotees to want to go back home, back to Godhead. And that's the analogy was given before, like a traveler, that he's, when he gets home, all the troubles of the journey, they become insignificant. So similarly, when we go back, the goal, in other words, the goal of Krishna consciousness is so high, is so exalted, is so valuable that there is no price to pay for it. I mean, if we can, like that the verse says that the only price is actually to have lolium, to have that intense eagerness. And if one can get this lolium anywhere, one must purchase it without delay. And the desire to go back home, back to Godhead. Okay, so there is any questions on this section about Vaikuntha? There's very, very nice purports, as always. Well, I always, there is text number 10, and text number 10 is interesting because, okay, let me just read a few verses. Did you find anything kind of unusual in text number 10 on the translation? Oh, here it is, Karuna Tara. Thank you. Okay, before like Kopala Ganasraya Prabhu, it says the whole Vaikuntha existence proclaims that everyone that is a follower of the Lord is a chief leader there without any competition for leadership. And the people in general are all followers of the Lord. Thank you. Karunatara. Lord is worshipped by Devas, Asuras, and Bhaktas. How do we understand this?
Like there, everyone worships him. That is the main thing. That is very simple. Like
it is simple actually, but how did the Asuras got there in the first place? I thought there were no Asuras in the spiritual world.
no, like everyone is children of God. That way we can understand. That's what I understand. So that way,
Okay.
like God loves everyone, in the same way. Every child is special to God. That is what I have understood.
But not everybody loves the Lord. The Asuras don't love the Lord. Sachitanai Prabhu, Asuras means, is it Prahlad, Bali, Vritasura? Yes. Okay. I'll read the Prabhupada comments on this. I'll share the screen. So Prabhupada writes, can you see, right? It says, and there is no more distinction between Sura and Asura. Here, Asuras, they are not devotees. They deny. So Asura, how the Asura goes there? When I first read this verse, I thought it was a misprint. I contacted Jayadvaita Swami and I asked him, he said, well, how the demigods and, how, he says, because the verse says, without discrimination, both the demigods and the demons worship the Lord as devotees. And I thought there was no Asuras in the spiritual world. And he replied that actually the second canto was not edited, So I was still kind of a little bewildered, I thought, well, is it a mistake or not? Eventually I found this quote that clarifies it. Okay, so here is the answer. I also wrote to Banu Maharaj, who gave me a different translation. So I'll show you both of them. Anyway, here he goes. He said, Asura does not go there as Asura, but he goes there as devotee, just like Prahlad Maharaj. He's the son of an Asura, Hiranyakashipu. Therefore, he is classified Asura, son of Asura. But this Asura quality is not more existing there, although he is promoted. In other words, when one is transferred to the Vaikuntha world, there is no such distinction between Sura and Asura. Clear? Okay. And then Vishwanath, this is from Vishwanath translation.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, we are seeing the text is small presentation mode, Prabhuji.
It's okay. It's okay. It's just a couple of verses. No problem. Give me a little more facility for navigate the slides because I'm jumping. If it's okay, I'll just make it bigger. In Vaikuntha, there is no rajas or tamas, and no sattva mixed with rajas and tamas. There is no influence of time. There is no influence of Maya at all. What to speak of its products, such as material elements? In Vaikuntha, the inhabitants are fully dedicated to the Lord and are worshipable by the Devas, Asuras, and devotees. And the commentary says the devotees there, since they are beyond time and Maya, should be worshipped by the Devatas, demons, and devotees. The same. Okay, so I'm going to jump through that. So Prabhupada writes, okay, we'll go to presentation mode. Real profit is here described in Vaikuntha, how they are face to face, seeing the Supreme Personality of Godhead, having the same body, the same ornaments, same opulence, everything same. Sarupya, Salokya, Sayuja. Sayuja is damned rascals. Sayuja Mukta, never, merging, never, no Vaishnav will take. But Sarupya, so far our Gaudiya Vaishnav is concerned, they do not even want this Sarupya, same bodily feature. They don't want anything. They simply want to serve Krishna. That's all. That's his Gaudiya Vaishnav Vichar. So it's like Mahavira Prabhu, Krishna comes to you today, okay? And he says, Mahavira Prabhu, I'm very pleased by your non-deceptive penance and by your chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra and your dedication to devotional service. So you can ask whatever you want. Would you like to go to Would you like wealth, any richness? Would you like anything that I can offer this material world? Would you like anything like that, Mahavira Prabhu? I can give it to you, no problem.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, I will follow the Prahlad Maharaj instruction that I did not do devotional service for anything in return. So
okay, well, but I want to give you a blessing. Okay, what about going to the heavenly planets? Would you like to go to the heavenly planets?
I will not like to go to heavenly planet. I will just like to request him, beg him for his service. That's all. Because my eternal constitutional position, as explained by you, is that I am eternal servant of Krishna.
Okay, well, what about Brahman? Would you like to go to Brahman and reside there eternally, free from any disturbances?
No, Prabhuji.
You're too well trained, Mahavira.
It is all because of your blessings and Guru Maharaj blessings and Srila Prabhupada blessings.
I'm not sure if I'm that well trained. What if Krishna comes to you and says, "Okay, I can give you Sarupya. You can come to the spiritual world and have a form just like myself." What about that? Would you like that, Mahavira Rupa Prabhu?
As long as I remain in my eternal constitutional position of serving the Lord, wherever Lord puts me, it is okay. It is Lord's choice.
Yeah, so we have to train ourselves that we don't want anything else but to please Krishna. Asaf Prabhu, you have a raised hand there.
I had a question because we were speaking about Vaikuntha, but what about Vrindavan? Are there any demons there also? Although I don't think it's mentioned here, but I'm just wondering.
There are no demons in Vrindavan. I was reading, I was thinking maybe, I was hoping that no one will ask this actually, because I don't want to give the quote. Basically, the reason why I was hoping is because I read somewhere, and I never like to do this, but I'll just say, okay, I don't know the reference. I don't remember the reference now, but I read there is a reference somewhere where it says that the Lord, if he wants, he may allow some demon to enter into the spiritual world. If he wants, he can do that. And the demon can perform a particular function there and he goes out. Okay? But I don't have the reference, so how truth, that's, generally the understanding that we have is that there is rumors that there are demons in the spiritual world and they feel fear, but they are not there. Okay? That's what's, but I read it recently only. I read it, and maybe I can find the quote because I just read it recently that I don't know if it was Jiva Goswami. In fact, that's my take. It was Jiva Goswami who had explained this, but I'll try to find it. The reason why I don't want anyone to ask, because it will have saved me having to do the research, but I'll do the research, and if I find it, I'll put it on the group. Okay, about this. Now, the difference between Goloka, Vrindavan, and Vaikuntha, I had a few quotes. I wasn't going to read them, but since you asked, it says, but in Vrindavan, this is a lecture also by Prabhupada on verse 10. He said, but in Vrindavan, there is no such respectful consciousness. Krishna and the cowherd boys, gopis, but their love is very, very intense. Out of love, they cannot disobey Krishna. Here in the Vaikuntha, out of respect, they cannot disobey. In the Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan, they cannot think of denying anything to Krishna. Krishna is so much lovable. They can give anything. There is no so respectful because they do not know whether Krishna is God or not. They know Krishna is like us, one of us. But the respect and love is so intense that without Krishna, they become lifeless. There is no life. Now, going back to your point, Asaf, also, I wanted to make sure that the understanding is clear. What Prabhupada was saying is that, when Asuras go to the spiritual world, what Prabhupada is explaining in that quote is that they don't go as Asuras, they go as purified souls. They were Asuras before. That's the point that was made. Okay, so we're moving on to text 17 is interesting. Also, I mean, the verses are very beautiful, and we'll just jump to verse 17. It says, the Lord was seated on his throne and was surrounded by different energies, like the 4, the 16, the 5, and the 6 natural opulences. along with other insignificant energies of the temporary character, but he was the factual Supreme Lord, enjoying his own abode. So what are these? So, like the four: Prakriti, Purusha, Mahatattva, and Ego. And the 16, the 5 elements, the 5 Yanendriyas, 5 Karmendriyas, the mind. The 5, the sense objects. The 6, the 6 opulences, the Astasiddhis. So in the spiritual world, you know, all the material elements, all the sense objects, all these, there is a personality of all these things in the spiritual world, totally spiritual. Prakriti, Purusha, Mahatattva, and Ego is amazing. And the one thing in the spiritual world is that everything is supremely conscious, right? While in the material world, everything is dead, apart from the jiva, the soul. Okay, so we're moving into the value of penance now, which is verses 5 to 9.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, sorry
Yeah.
for interruption. May I ask, in the translation that you just read, in the 17th slok, there is mention of temporary character. I could not understand temporary character.
In the translation?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Okay, the Lord was seated on his throne and was surrounded by different energies like the 4, the 16, the 5, and the 6 natural opulences, along with other insignificant energies of the temporary character. But he was the factual Supreme Lord, enjoying his abode. Well, what it seems to indicate here is like all these things that are being described, and again, I'm just giving you my limited understanding, is that all these things that have been described here, they are, you know, they exist in the material world, okay? And they are temporary in the material world. But in the spiritual world, they're not temporary, they are eternal. Okay, so let's see in the purport. It says the insignificant opulence numbering 8. Okay, so that's the insignificant opulences. Sorry, the insignificant opulence numbering 8, the Astasiddhis attained by yogis for temporary overlordship, are also under his control, but he's naturally full with all such powers without any effort, and therefore he's the Supreme Lord. So this is what the different Astasiddhis, they have a personality that resides in the spiritual world. Okay.
So what you said is, I think that was very nice, because you said that the characteristics or energies, they are demonstration or display in material world on a temporary basis, but on spiritual world it is eternal basis.
Yeah, basically the material world is a perverted reflection of the spiritual world. So whatever is in the spirit in the spiritual world is reflected in the material world. And all these different ingredients of the material world and these opulences of the material world, they exist as a personality in the spiritual world.
Thank you very much.
Like the Astasiddhis, the different, like, you know, Anima, Lagima, all these, they're a personality in the spiritual world. The sense objects, there is a personality in the spiritual world. And all these, they are everybody in the spiritual world is like a submissive to the Lord. They're all serving the Lord. So how powerful is the Supreme Lord? And you know, that also goes on to, it gives an indication how Krishna is not interested in the material world. The material world will have something good to offer. The Krishna, you know, which is not in the spiritual world. Maybe Krishna will be here and enjoying it, but Krishna only comes here to take us out of here. He has no material attachment. Okay, so we are moving into this section of the value of penance. Let's see how far we can go. Did you do this exercise? This is very beautiful quotes actually on these sections. Select statements from 9:5 to 9 and 9:20 to 24, which are particularly relevant to you and your current situation, challenges, etc. Okay, so did you get some quotes about the importance of penance? Okay, and I'll just, while you find the quotes, what is being expressed here is right at the beginning of the universe, that Brahma, and I'll go, okay, I'll read the verses actually. And remember that this was in connection to the answer to how the form of the living entity and how the form of Lord Brahma are distinct from the form of the Lord. So the description is that Brahma, at the beginning of the universe, he couldn't find anything else, and he heard a sound, and that sound, which was tapa, it was he heard the sound. That was one thing, and then he got the inspiration from the heart to perform tapasya, and by performing this tapasya, he was able to please the Lord and get the darshan of the Lord. So the fact that he had to perform tapasya and perform bhakti, basically this tapasya is devotional service, to see the form of the Lord illustrates the principle that the form of the Lord is different from the form of the living entity. We have mentioned that before, okay? So that's clear. But now in these verses, and then, okay, and after he pleased the Lord like this, then the Lord gave him his darshan. And then we come to verses 20 to 24. I'm going to read them, and then you can come up with some of those statements. Text number 18. I'm going to read from 18. It said, Lord Brahma, thus seeing the personality of Godhead in his fullness, was overwhelmed with joy within his heart. And thus, in full transcendental love and ecstasy, his eyes filled with tears of love, he thus bowed down before the Lord. That is the way of the highest perfection for the living being. This purport is really, really beautiful. So I'm going to read. In the beginning of the Srimad Bhagavatam, it is stated that this great literature is meant for the Paramahamsas, Paramo Nirmatsaranam Satam. That is, the Srimad Bhagavatam is meant for persons completely free from malice. In the conditioned life, the malicious life begins from the top, namely bearing malice against the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Personality of Godhead is an established fact in all the revealed scriptures, and in the Bhagavad Gita, the personal feature of the Supreme Lord is especially mentioned, so much so that the last portion of the great literature has emphatically stressed that one should surrender unto the personality of Godhead to be saved from the miseries of life. Unfortunately, persons with impious backgrounds do not believe in the personality of Godhead, and everyone wants to become God himself without any qualification. This malicious nature in the conditioned soul continues even up to the stage when a person wants to be one with the Lord. And thus, even the greatest of the empiric philosophers speculating on becoming one with the Supreme Lord cannot become a Paramahamsa because the malicious mind is there. Therefore, the Paramahansa stage of life can be attained only by those who are fixed in the practice of Bhakti Yoga. This Bhakti Yoga begins if a person has the firm conviction that simply by discharging devotional service to the Lord in full transcendental love can elevate him to the highest perfectionless stage of life. Brahmaji believed in this art of Bhakti Yoga. He believed in the instruction of the Lord to execute tapa, and he discharged the function with great penance and thus achieved the great success of seeing the Vaikuntha Lokas and the Lord, also by personal experience. Okay, it goes on. The first, it's just the whole purport is very nice. So I'm going to read the translations to the following verses. And seeing Brahma present before him, the Lord accepted him as worthy to create living beings, to be controlled as he desired. And thus being much satisfied with him, the Lord shook hands with Brahma and slightly smiling, addressed him thus. The beautiful personality of Godhead addressed Lord Brahma, O Brahma, impregnated with the Vedas, I am very much pleased with your long accumulated penance with the desire for creation. Hardly am I pleased with pseudo-mystics. I wish you good luck, O Brahma. You may ask from me, the giver of all benediction, all that you may desire. You may know that the ultimate benediction, as the result of all penances, is to see me by realization. The highest perfectional ingenuity is the personal perception of my abodes. And this has been possible because of your submissive attitude in the performance of severe penance according to my order. O sinless Brahma, you may know from me that it was I who first ordered you to undergo penance when you were perplexed in your duty. Such penance is my heart and soul, and therefore penance and I are non-different. I create this cosmos by such penance. I maintain it by the same energy, and I withdraw it all by the same energy. Therefore, the potential power is penance only. Okay, and then Lord Brahma, in response to this, he will ask 4 questions. And the answers to these 4 questions is what is known as Chatushloki Bhagavatam. Lord Krishna will speak this Chatushloki Bhagavatam to Lord Brahma, and then Lord Brahma will expand his knowledge to Narada Muni. And in this way, the knowledge is transmitted through the chain of disciplic succession. So I didn't see any statements. Did you get, anybody got some statements in regards to, the importance of tapasya? No? Okay, Asaf.
Hare Krishna. Yeah, I found verse 7 is very instructive for myself.
Okay.
Brahma says, not Brahma says, but when he was unable to find anyone besides himself, he thought it wise to sit down on his lotus seat firmly and give his attention to the execution of penance, as he was instructed. And what I found instructive for me is that not basically, but ultimately, that's the best thing I can do is do my sadhana as my guru instructed me. Do it with firm conviction, and as Brahma was thinking, he thought it wise. So that's the wisest thing I could do.
Yeah, and Prabhupada explains that firm conviction, this is, referred to as, like firm faith, basically. And having that conviction that by execution of devotional service, all other attainments, all other goals are automatically fulfilled. And we have here the topmost personality in the universe, Lord Brahma, and he is engaging in the performance of devotional service. Thank you. Jamashtami, Prabhu. Unless you unmute yourself, we won't be able to hear you.
in that same purport at verse 9.7, one should not, however, think himself on the level of Brahman to be initiated directly by the Lord from inside, because in the present age, no one can be accepted to be as pure as Brahma. The post of Brahma to officiate in the creation of the universe is offered to the most pure living entity. Unless one is so qualified, one cannot expect to be treated like Brahmaji directly. But one can have the same facility through unalloyed devotees of the Lord, through scriptural instructions, as revealed in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam especially, and also through this bona fide spiritual master available to the sincere soul. So that facility that Brahma was able to access by his tapa, we also have that same facility.
Okay, nice. Thank you. Karunatara Mataji?
Prabhuji, something which strikes me a lot, that Brahmaji, he did exactly what God told him. And second thing, he only through love and penance combined can
I like, for this exercise, what I like you to do is give us the statement, read the statement from Prabhupada's books, and then you give how that is important for you. Okay, so Gopala Ganashraya, while you find that, I'll read. Gopala Ganashraya Prabhu wrote, there is no profit in executing troublesome penances other than bhakti yoga for self-realization. Bang. The power of creation by Lord Brahma was also achieved by bhakti yoga. If anyone desires to seek perfect knowledge of everything, he must seek the mercy of the Lord, and there is no other means. To seek knowledge on the stance of one's personal attempt is a sheer waste of time. So now you're writing the essay, you give us that quote, and then now you explain it. To give the quote is not enough. Yeah, you have to explain it, okay? But these are valid. Madhumati, it is mentioned in the verse, Lord himself did penance. So he doesn't have to. Reminds me of Yat Acharati Shrishta. Yeah, okay, good point. Nice. Okay, Karuna Tara Mataji. Now, give us the quote.
Prabhuji, it is in 2.9.22. In that it is written, that Lord Brahma exactly followed these principles without any superiority complex, and thus he attained the highest perfectional stage of experiencing the abode of Lord. And Lord himself, with all his paraphernalia, impersonal realization of the influence of the Lord's body is not the highest. I mean, main thing is that Lord Brahma actually followed what God said. That is the main thing. And in the text number 23, it is written that only love and penance combined can please the Lord. And thus one is...
okay, so now, but there is a question here, okay? Was the Lord pleased by the tapasya itself? Or, when we're talking about the tapasya of Lord Brahma, it's very important that we get this point right. What Krishna was pleased by, it wasn't so much, Krishna is not pleased by tapasya, okay? Krishna is pleased by the mood in which we perform the tapasya.
Yes.
Doing the tapasya in of itself is not enough. But the Lord Brahma, he was trying to please the Lord. That's what pleased Krishna. He may have engaged in that tapasya for thousands of years, millions of years, but if the consciousness to please Krishna will not have been there, that's useless. Okay? So our process is not tapasya. We sometimes may mix this up, and we may want to do some. I mean, it's not generally the case that the devotees want to do extra tapasya, but sometimes we may think that it is the tapasya itself is more important than the consciousness in which we do it. Like we may do Nirjala Ekadashi, for example. Today is Ekadashi, okay, so we may be doing Nirjala Ekadashi, but what are we doing it for? Am I doing it to please Krishna? Am I doing it so I have more time to read and to hear and chant? I have less bodily necessities. It's good for my health, and it's good for my body, so I can do better service for Krishna. or I am doing that tapasya to, you know, prove how good I am, better than everybody else, how fallen they are, all these people who are eating on Ekadashi. Can you imagine eating on Ekadashi? Huh? It's the consciousness. It's the consciousness in when we do it. And the result of when we do things for the pleasure of the Lord is that the heart will become softened. If we do tapasya and it's beyond our, you know, capacity or beyond what we are supposed to do, that is going to make our hearts to go harder, not softer. And that's going to create, it's like sometimes you pull an elastic band, and if you pull it too much, it may break, or you may lose it and bang, you know. So when we are doing tapasya, and I'm just going into the topic of tapasya because tapasya means that we take we are doing, telling our senses what to do instead of doing what the mind wants to do. We're telling the mind what to do. Okay, I'm not gonna eat. The mind wants to eat. Okay, I'm not gonna eat today. But that in itself is not bhakti. What is bhakti is that I'm doing it for Krishna. So in the 70s, there was one devotee here in Mayapur who was chanting 64 rounds, and the devotees were very impressed with him. And then he moved himself out of the association of the devotees a little bit in the field, so he will not be distracted to chant his rounds. And he was chanting to the cows, and all the devotees were reporting to Prabhupada, oh, this devotee, he's so fixed up, you know, he's doing so well, you know. And Prabhupada was not impressed. And eventually this devotee left. And Prabhupada's comment was, as far as it is to do what I want to do, it means Maya. So our tapasya is to follow the instructions of the spiritual master. That's our tapasya, to please the Lord. You know, you may find yogis, they fast, they don't speak, they go on monovrat for like years, they don't cut their nails. That's not our process. Krishna is not pleased by that. Okay.
So, Prabhuji, by my understanding, we can also say the attitude is more important to please Lord.
Yeah,
how
basically. Precise.
Thank
Okay, Madhumati said, materialists do many penances every day. Yes, but all penances don't satisfy the Lord. With Brahma's penance, the Lord was satisfied as he didn't misuse his Vedic knowledge, unlike Kuta yogis or pseudo transcendentalists. Okay, correct. Okay, so I know it's 3 o'clock. Those who need to go, if you can wait for just a few minutes, I will appreciate. But if you have to go, go. I would just like to go through a few quotes. It's going to take me like 5 minutes maximum. All this knowledge was fully achieved by him through the medium of Bhakti Yoga. So that's the point we're making. It was not penance. This penance that is being mentioned, referred here to, is Bhakti Yoga, okay? This penance is the beauty and wealth of the Brahmanas and the renounced order of life. By tapasya only can one get the profit of human life. Human life is meant for tapa. You know, what is the profit of human life? The profit of human life if we get an opportunity to put an end to the repetition of birth and death. We get an opportunity to go back home, back to Godhead. And to do that, we need to reduce the fever of material existence, which is, it pushes us to enjoy material life. So how do we reduce that fever? Through the performance of tapasya. Following the order of the spiritual master is the only duty of the disciple and the secret of success. I mean,
You're sharing the slides, or you can't?
oh, I'm not sharing the slide. I'm so sorry. Hare Krishna. Thank you for telling me. Okay, here are the reference and the quotes. Okay. Text, you know, and in Prabhupada's books, we're gonna find places where Prabhupada says the secrets of success, the sum and substance. So whenever we find this, it means it's very important. So Prabhupada in text 8 and 9, in the purport, he says that following the order of the bona fide spiritual master is the only duty of the disciple, and this completely faithful execution of the order of the bona fide spiritual master is the secret of success. Secret of success. Penance and I are non-different. Either voluntary submission or being forced by the Lord, penance is necessary for attaining perfection. The Lord favors such a foolish devotee by snatching all that he may possess in the material world. He wants to see how painstaking the devotee is in devotional service. Love and penance combined can please the Lord. Okay, so we are going to, and this is the point I just reflect. We're going to finish with this quote by Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur on purport to text 23. Austerity indeed is my Shakti. It is my heart. This means that I desire that the Jiva give up enjoyment of material life, since that is favorable for bhakti. Yasyaham anugrinami harishitat danam shanai. I will gradually take away the wealth from the person to whom I show mercy. These words are well known. If that austerity is performed for attaining me, it is my heart, but not otherwise. Without me as the goal, austerity is without life, like a corpse. This is true for the materialist who perform austerity with a desire for material pleasure. Even though you have performed austerity with a desire to create the universe, because I have inspired that desire and that austerity is pleasing to me, it is actually performed without desire. Thus, I have showed you my planet. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Nitai Gaura Premanande. So thank you very much, Prabhus, Matajis. Sorry for being 5 minutes late. And I know there is a few hands up there. I'm not going to be able to answer today because I have to go, unless it's a really burning question. If it's a really burning question, you can just unmute yourself and ask it. But before you do that, those who need to leave, please do so. Next week, we're going to be covering the Chatushloki Bhagavatam. So I'm going to give you a little homework. It will be put in the WhatsApp group tomorrow. And yeah, if you didn't do this, if you did not go through these purports about penance, I strongly suggest you that you do. Even though we have already covered, we can do a little. We can begin next class. Okay, on Saturday we can begin next class with some of your learnings from this, section on Tapasya by Lord Brahma. And in fact, I would like you to come up also, share one thing that you could do based on these statements about Tapasya to improve your spiritual life. Okay, so we will begin next class on Saturday with that, and then we'll move into Chatushloki and the 10 topics. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So if you really have a burning question that you need to ask, do it now. And if it's not too long, I can try. Otherwise, we can do that on the next. Okay.
Bye.
Next weekend? Okay.
Krishna Prabhuji, may I ask one question? Small question.
If it's quick, yes.
Yeah, it is quick.
Because I need to go, basically. I have 3 minutes.
Yeah, your translation of text number 20, which you told today. So it is mentioned, oh Brahma, impregnated with the Vedas. So impregnated with the Vedas means what? I could not understand. And pseudo mystics means deceptive mystics.
Yeah.
Text number 20.
Yeah. Impregnated with the Vedas, Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye, Muhintija Surya. Impregnated with the Vedas because the Lord will impregnate him. Okay, and he impregnates him. Every time that the Lord Brahma creates the universe, that's his characteristic, that he is given Tene Brahma Hridaya Adi Kavaye, that the Lord imparts Vedic knowledge unto him.
So does it mean that the Lord infused the knowledge in Brahma's heart?
Precise.
And pseudo mystics are deceptive mystics.
Yeah, pseudo mystics is like not real, you know.
And Prabhuji, then it was mentioned in the previous purports also that 84 lakh species are there, and they're okay. Prabhuji, next time.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for your eagerness to ask questions. Dandava pranams vanchakalpataruvischa kripa sindhu vivacha patitanam pavanevyo vaishnavevyo namo namaha. Okay, here in the Sachitana is okay, I'll see you. If you have any questions, you can put it on the WhatsApp group. I'll try to answer over the weekend, not today for sure. Over the week, and then we can resume next week. Thank you very much.